There are moments behind closed doors that history never fully captured. Moments where the king of rock and roll wasn't on stage, but instead broken, vulnerable, and silently weeping. One of those moments happened late at night when Priscilla opened the bathroom door and found Elvis Presley in tears, crushed by fame, loneliness, and the weight of the world. What she chose to do in that fragile moment didn't just comfort him. It saved their marriage. This is the untold story of the night Elvis's tears almost drowned him, and the woman who pulled him back to shore. The Graceland mansion was never truly quiet. Even when the lights dimmed, echoes of footsteps, muffled laughter from distant rooms, or the low hum of appliances filled the air. Yet, that night, Priscilla noticed something different. The house seemed too still, as if it was holding its breath. She padded down the hallway in her silk robe, the floor cool beneath her feet. Elvis had retreated hours earlier after dinner, claiming he needed rest, but Priscilla knew him too well. Rest was never part of his vocabulary. He thrived on motion, music, and people. Silence was not his natural companion. As she neared the master bedroom, she heard a faint sound. At first, she thought it was the faucet running. But then came the muffled hitch of breath, a sound so fragile it didn't belong to Elvis Presley, the king adored by millions. It belonged to a man cornered by his own life. Priscilla pushed the door open just slightly, enough to see the bathroom, light bleeding into the darkness. The door was cracked, and from within came the unmistakable sound of sobbing. "Elvis?" she whispered. There was no reply. Only the shallow rhythm of someone trying and failing to compose himself. Heart ached. She had seen him tired, angry, restless. But she had never seen him cry like this. Not on stage, not in the privacy of their home. Elvis was a man built on charisma, an empire of confidence. Yet tonight, he was just a man. Priscilla stood frozen. Should she walk in, or should she give him space? Her instincts told her that if she left, this wound might never close. So, with quiet steps, she entered. Elvis sat on the bathroom floor, back against the tub, his head buried in his hands. His shoulders shook with each suppressed sob. The sight was almost unbearable. "Elvis," she said softly, kneeling beside him. His hands slowly dropped, revealing red, swollen eyes. "Scylla," he whispered, voice breaking. "I can't do this anymore." It wasn't the music he was talking about. It was the weight of expectation, the loneliness of fame, and the crumbling walls of their marriage. For the first time, Priscilla realized the king wasn't invincible. He was a man terrified of losing everything, including her. And in that moment, she knew her next words would determine not only the future of their marriage, but perhaps the fate of Elvis Presley himself. Elvis lifted his gaze from his trembling hands. His eyes, swollen with tears, carried both shame and desperation. The man who could electrify an audience of 50,000 was now reduced to a whisper in front of the one person who knew him beyond. The rhinestones and stage lights. Priscilla reached for his hand, but he recoiled instinctively, as if afraid of tainting her with his weakness. "Don't look at me like this, Scylla," he muttered, voice hoarse. "I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be the king." Her heart clenched. Fame had wrapped him in a crown too heavy to bear. To the world, he was untouchable. But inside, he was suffocating. "You don't have to be the king with me," she said softly. "You just have to be Elvis." But he shook his head. "That's the problem, baby. I don't even know who Elvis is anymore." His words fell like stones. "Everywhere I go, there's somebody wanting something. A smile, a song, a piece of me. And when I'm here, at home, I don't even know how to be your husband anymore. I'm lost." Priscilla moved closer, placing her hand gently on his. "You're not lost," she whispered. "You're right here, with me." His eyes flickered with doubt. But for how long? I see the way you look at me sometimes, like I'm slipping away. She wanted to deny it, but deep inside, she knew. He wasn't wrong. The late nights, the endless tours, the pills to keep him awake, the pills to put him to sleep. They had created a distance, a chasm between the man and the marriage. Elvis, she said carefully, I don't need the spotlight. I don't need the screaming fans. I just need you. The boy who made me laugh in Germany. The man who held my hand when no one else was watching. That's who I married. Tears welled up again in his eyes. I don't know if I can give you that anymore. I feel like I'm drowning, Scylla. Like no matter how much I give, it's never enough. Not for them, not for me, not even for you. Priscilla felt the sting of his words. But instead of retreating, she leaned forward, placing her forehead against his. Then let's stop trying to give the world everything, she whispered. Let's just find us again. He let out a shaky laugh, though it carried no joy. Easier said than done. Maybe, she admitted. But we don't have to fix it all tonight. We just have to start. Right here, right now, with honesty. Elvis closed his eyes, letting her words seep into the cracks of his brokenness. For the first time that night, his sobs quieted, replaced by a fragile silence. He wasn't healed, but he wasn't alone anymore. Priscilla held him close, her arms wrapping around his trembling frame. She knew this was only the beginning of a storm they would have to weather together. But for the first time in months, maybe years, she felt the faint spark of hope flicker between them, because love, even in its most fragile form, still had the power to keep a king from falling. The following morning, the sun streamed gently through the curtains of Graceland, but the air between Elvis and Priscilla remained heavy with unspoken truths. Elvis had barely slept. He wandered through the house like a ghost, his robe loosely tied, his hair unkempt, a far cry from the polished icon the world demanded. Priscilla watched him from the kitchen doorway, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't sipped. He paced like a man with nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. She wanted to speak, but she sensed he was carrying something deeper than words could easily reach. Finally, Elvis stopped in front of the grand piano in the living room. His fingers brushed the ivory keys, hesitant as if the instrument itself might betray him. Then softly he began to play. The notes were shaky at first, uncertain, but they carried the rawness of his pain. Priscilla approached quietly and sat beside him on the bench. He didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on the keys, his voice low as he murmured, "Sometimes I wonder if people even love me, or just the idea of me." Her heart clenched again. Elvis, millions of people love you. He finally turned, his gaze toward her, his blue eyes piercing and tired. That's just it, Scylla. They love him, the man on stage, the one in the jumpsuits, singing about heartache and love. But when the lights go off, when it's just me sitting in the dark, who loves that man? Who even knows that man? Priscilla placed her hand on his arm. I do. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then Elvis shook his head, bitter laughter escaping his lips. Do you? Or do you miss the boy you met back in Germany, before all this madness? She wanted to argue, to tell him love was not bound by time or fame. But truth stung her lips. She did miss that boy, the carefree soldier who would sneak her smiles when no one was watching. That boy had been swallowed by the king of rock and roll, and in his place was a man crumbling under the weight of his own legend. Elvis, she said softly, I love all of you, even the broken parts, especially the broken parts. He looked away, his jaw tightening. But what if I can't keep going? What if one day I just stop? His voice cracked on the last word, and Priscilla felt her stomach knot dot. She reached out, guiding his chin back toward her. Then I'll still be here, Whether you're on stage or sitting right here at this piano, I'll be here. But you've got to let me in, Elvis. You can't fight this battle alone." His hand stilled on the keys. He swallowed hard, eyes glistening again. For a long while, they just sat in silence, the piano between them, holding the weight of everything unspoken. It was the first real step toward healing, not a performance, not a grand declaration, just the quiet act of being seen. Priscilla leaned her head on his shoulder, and for the first time in months, Elvis allowed himself to rest, not as the king, but as a man who desperately needed to be loved. The next days blurred into one another. Elvis alternated between moments of silence and sudden bursts of energy, as if he were trying to outrun the shadows that clung to him. He rehearsed late into the night, then collapsed into exhaustion, only to wake restless again. Priscilla watched with quiet worry. The bathroom moment had cracked something open, but cracks could either heal or split wider, and she feared that if they split, nothing could piece them back together. One evening, Elvis stood before the full-length mirror in their bedroom. He was dressed in one of his custom jumpsuits, sequins glimmering under the soft light. But instead of pride, his reflection brought only bitterness. "Look at this, Scylla," he muttered, tugging at the collar. "This ain't a man's outfit. This is a costume. I'm a puppet for the crowd." She stepped closer, her hand resting gently on his back. "It's part of your art, Elvis. They love you for it." "They love him," he shot back, pointing at the mirror. "That man in there, smiling, strutting, giving him everything. But when the show's over, I take this off, and what's left? Just me. And I don't even know if that's enough anymore." Priscilla searched his face in the glass, the exhaustion etched around his eyes, the way his mouth fought between a smirk and a grimace. He was a man haunted by his own reflection. "Elvis," she said carefully, "maybe it's time to stop asking if you're enough for them. You need to ask if you're enough for yourself." He froze, her words slicing through him. Slowly, he turned away from the mirror, his expression unreadable. "And what if I ain't?" Her heart squeezed. She took his hands, holding them tightly. "Then we find a way to make you enough." Together, for a long moment, he said nothing. Then he pulled her into a sudden embrace, burying his face in her hair. His voice was muffled but desperate. "I don't want to lose you, Scylla. You're the only thing that feels real." She held him, steadying both of them. "Then let's hold on to what's real. Not the costumes, not the headlines, just us." That night, for the first time in years, they sat by the fire like an ordinary couple. No entourage, no phones ringing. Off the hook. Just two people, talking about small things, their daughter Lisa Marie's laugh, the memories of their first nights together in Germany, the silly little habits they still teased each other about. And in those quiet hours, Priscilla saw a glimpse of the man she had fallen in love with. Not the king, not the performer, but the boy from Tupalo who had dreamed too big and carried too much as the firelight flickered across his face. She whispered, "This is the Elvis I married." He smiled faintly, tears shining but unshed. For once, he didn't feel the need to hide them. And though the storm of fame still raged outside the walls of Graceland, inside, for that night at least, they had found shelter in each other. The weeks that followed were fragile but transformative. Elvis wasn't magically cured of the weight he carried, the fame, the exhaustion, the fear of becoming hollow. But something had shifted. For the first time in years, he wasn't hiding behind stage lights or pills. He was letting Priscilla see the man beneath the crown. One evening, after tucking Lisa Marie into bed, Priscilla returned to the living room to find Elvis strumming his guitar softly. He wasn't rehearsing. He wasn't performing. He was simply playing the kind of gentle, wandering tune he used to hum when they were young. She sat beside him, listening, her heart swelling at the simplicity of the moment. When the last note faded, Elvis looked at her with a seriousness that made her breath catch. "Scylla," he said, his voice low, "I know I've let you down. I know I've been gone even when I was here, but I need you to know. That night, in the bathroom, when you found me," he paused, swallowing hard, "you saved me." Her eyes softened. "Elvis, I didn't save you. I just reminded you you're not alone." He shook his head. "No, you don't understand. I was this close to giving up on us, on me, on everything. But you walked in, and you didn't run away. You stayed. And that gave me something to hold on to." Tears pricked Priscilla's eyes, but she fought them back, choosing instead to squeeze his hand. "That's what marriage is, Elvis. Staying, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Silence stretched between them, thick with emotion. Then Elvis set the guitar aside and stood. He walked to the mantel, where a framed wedding photo sat, a younger Elvis and Priscilla, radiant, untouched by the storms that were yet to come. He picked it up, staring at it for a long time. When he turned back, his eyes glistened. "I don't want to lose what we had. I don't want to lose you." Priscilla rose and crossed the room, placing her hand over his heart. "Then let's not lose it. Let's start again. Right here, right now." He cupped her face, his voice breaking. "Do you think we can?" She smiled through her tears. "I know we can. Because love isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up together." And in that quiet living room, with the fire casting its warm glow, they kissed, not as a glamorous couple under the watchful eyes of the world, but as two people rediscovering each other. That night, Elvis whispered promises into her hair. Promises not of perfection, but of presence. Promises to fight for them, even when the weight of the world tried to pull him under. Priscilla held him close, knowing the road ahead would not be easy, but also knowing they had taken the most important step. They had chosen each other again. For the king, it wasn't a concert that saved him. It wasn't the adoration of millions. It was the quiet courage of a woman who refused to let him drown in his own tears. And for Priscilla, it wasn't the legend she fought for. It was the man she loved. Behind the legend of Elvis Presley was a man who almost lost himself to the weight of his crown, and a woman who pulled him back with love, patience, and faith. Their story reminds us that sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply staying. What about you? Do you believe love can truly save someone from their darkest moments? Share your thoughts below.